Hello and welcome to another edition of Fide's podcast. My name is Jerry Serino and I'm your host, and I'm here with talent on loan from Rush. And there are so many great conservative thinkers out there. Some are well known, like Tucker Carlson's and Ben Shapiro's and Charlie Kirk's and the like. And then there are some less known, like me, and others that are making a huge difference simply by posting and giving thoughts and opinions on what is going on. And I love finding people like that who are out there, who have lots of followers, and who are passionate about the things that are going on in this country and have the right ideas. My guest today is Meg Ann. She is goes by the name Freedom Chronicles on social media, and I found her there, and she is also an ambassador for Turning Point USA, and she is outspoken and she's right on, and she's here to talk to us about some of the things that she's passionate about. And Meg, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be awesome.
Yes, I'm excited. I've had such great time meeting people like yourself who are just out there living their life, families, they're not specifically wanting per se to be in the political world or be politically active in a sense. Maybe you do, but the times I think have pushed so many to being vocal. Social media, as much as I hate it, this is an aspect in which I like it because it gives a voice to people like you and I who otherwise would struggle to. So I want to maybe start with a little bit about you. It's always interesting to know people's backgrounds and, first of all, what are you doing? What got you into being politically active? Has it been recent? Has it been, something your whole life?
Yeah, so it's definitely been a journey over the last few years. Not many people know this because I don't talk about it, but I'm actually planning to talk about it more, is that I am actually part of the walkaway movement. I am what you would define as a typical indoctrinated youth, right? Going through public school, we were always taught abortion is women's rights and don't question the narrative and you're born racist, the whole nine yards, right? Just this is what you believe. School is, a tool to teach people not to question authority. So we go through it. We just go through the motions. I'm gonna take my glasses off because they're reflecting. And I never questioned that growing up. But in 2014, I got pregnant with my first child, and Dad sat me down and was like, I would really like it if you started researching well baby visits. And I was like, whoa. Are you one of those people? Are you a conspiracy theorist? And I was open to it. I was like, just thinking back to my childhood and how I hated going to the doctors for vaccines and how they hurt, and it was traumatizing and I never felt good after. I was like, I'm gonna look into it. And so I started researching vaccines, and I am pro freedom for whatever you choose, but my family does not vaccinate. That was my first kind of rabbit hole, if you will, was researching ingredients in vaccines. And I'm kind of thankful that it was, because once you become aware to the toxic corruption of big pharma, it's much easier to recognize it in everyday life. And from that point on, that was kind of my starting journey. My social media presence was never intended to be political commentary or talking about government corruption. But when COVID happened and they were trying to force the world to do things they didn't want to do, talking about vaccines, which is what I was doing, was getting me censored just for simply saying the word vaccine. And I was like, what's happening here? Right, what's happening here? I connected the dots between big pharma corruption, the money trail, but I hadn't really gone down into politics yet. And to be honest, I wasn't interested in them. I didn't care. At that point, I had never voted. I had never taken place in the school board or local elections, nothing. And so that really woke me up, the amount of censorship just revolving around medical freedom. And that's actually when I started to get political. I was almost forced out of what I was passionate about and into the corruption of what's happening all over the world. And that's my story. And here I am. And, it's going to be an endless knowledge journey, right? We're never going to figure out everything. But my passion isn't, sorry, heads up, I'm a mom, my kids are home.
No worries. Everyone's
it's never,
used to that.
it's not about the destination. It's the journey. And, we keep waking up to things. And my motto since then has really been to question everything. And while I am very opinionated in what I talk about, my objective isn't to convince people, right? I don't want to convince you of anything. I want you to use your own God-given brain and do the research.
Yeah, 100%. That's really well said because, and I think that that's all people like you and I want is to educate people and say, hey, look, take a look at it yourself. Because like you, I lost 2 YouTube pages simply because of talking about the vaccine and COVID, just talking about it. I don't care what people do. Get what you get it, get all the vaccines you want, but just talking about it and discussing it, I was censored, just me. I'm not anyone big, but that's what they're doing. And you think to yourself, well, why don't they want people to have information? Right. And that's unfortunately what the left is.
Yeah.
And it makes you angry, especially, here you are as a mom, and I have kids too, and we're dealing with this kind of nonsense. And it's like, just give people freedom and give people information. Don't deny them information. So, I mean, what do you make of it when, you had these questions and plenty of people had these questions and concerns about in the case, the vaccine, the so-called vaccine for COVID, and we were censored and then we were forced to take it, right? People were, or they lose their job. And it turns out that it doesn't work. And it's kind of obvious that it doesn't work. They won't even admit that, right? I mean, you still see billboards and commercials. I mean, Travis Kelce with his little Band-Aid on his arm. I mean, I'm sorry. Do you not see that it doesn't work? Do you think they'll ever admit that?
Never admit that. And I don't want to take your show into a vaccine debate, yeah. But the truth of the matter is this spills into all vaccines. Mm-hmm. It's not just the COVID vaccine, although this was the scariest and biggest push for something. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of grateful for it because it did wake a lot of people up to our rights being impeded and coercion. But we have to take into account that the same manufacturers of these vaccines are making all of the other vaccines, right? Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to address the fact that vaccine studies aren't what you think they are. They get to pick and choose what data is added to any and all of them, right? And so I'm glad they're waking up to the COVID vaccine and the corruption within the force of it, but we also have to wake up to the rest of it. We have to, because, what they did over COVID, they've been doing in public schools and in an at-home space for decades, right? It's, okay, we're going to give you 3 exemptions, but we're not going to tell you have exemptions, right? If your kids want to go to school, they have to be vaccinated. So parents thought their kids had to be vaccinated to go to school. And then once parents started to be aware of this, states started taking away exemptions. Okay, you're not going to have a philosophical exemption. You have to have a religious or a medical exemption. And then, California did away with also the religious exemption. And you have to question why. Why do your rights not trump what they're trying to do? But again, it's just this other tunnel of brainwashing. We've been convinced we have to obey because of the science they have put out for these vaccines, where the Hep B shot was studied for 6 months. 6 mm-hmm. months. And they want your newborn baby to get it. Yeah. Yeah. We just have to start looking. And again, right, I'm not somebody that's ever going to say, don't vaccinate your kids, you're evil if you do. But what I recommend is you can go right to Google and go look up the vaccine excipients list. It lists all vaccines. Start with your kid's next dose, right? It's going to list all the ingredients in there one by one. Go through these ingredients and look at them, because if you Google, even on Google, you Google these ingredients, they're carcinogens, they cause mutations in genes. And what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that there has been a lot of discussion about all the vaccines that are out there, the childhood vaccines. I know Robert F. Kennedy, who I like some of the things he's doing and saying, but whatever, he's bringing up the issue of previous or old existing vaccines and the impact on children and the like. And again, you obviously know this stuff more than I do as far as the vaccines. Although I've heard a number of these things, all people want is to be able to make the decision themselves, and we cannot trust
No,
the government or the government agencies to be honest with us at all, sadly. And
no.
that's what COVID should have showed all of us, as far as our ability to
Yep.
trust those that are in leadership positions or and the like. So yeah, really good stuff. And so I wanted to go into a couple other things and get your thoughts on
Yep.
some other issues that you're passionate about. Obviously, we talked about the freedom and vaccines and stuff like that. Is there another issue that really makes you passionate?
So there's a lot of other issues, and they're all kind of intertwined, right? I'm really passionate about the Second Amendment. I'm really passionate about securing our borders. Really passionate about medical freedom, and they're all intertwined into one. And it's fighting for your rights. Like that's what
Hmm.
it breaks down to: is fighting for the rights that we have, because giving them away for a false sense of safety isn't doing anyone any favors except for the people who want control.
Yep.
So, for example, if you want to go get vaccinated, you have the right to do so. If you want to own a gun, you have the right to do so. But just because you don't like guns does not mean I shouldn't be able to own one.
Right. 100%. Yeah. That's so true. Fine, don't get a gun, right? No one's telling you you can't have one or you have to have one or anything like that. It
Yeah.
is a freedom issue, and it's very, very concerning. I was talking to someone or listening that maybe I was listening to another show, and someone was talking about how we were founded on limited government, and we have in a matter of a couple hundred years become the largest government ever to exist, mostly on our just
Yes.
population and wealth and the like. But we are a huge government, $34 trillion in debt right now. And obviously, the amount of regulation and power and control by our government, the difference between, uh, you know, Joe Biden and someone like a Donald Trump is drastic as far as freedom and rule of law and the like. And I think that's what is super important. So you had mentioned the border. Uh, um, it's
Yeah.
obvious that there is nothing that our federal government is going to do regarding the border, even though they're legally obligated to do so. There's all this discussion about, hey, we need to have comprehensive immigration reform, and that's what stalls things. Yet there's no reform that's needed. We have existing law on the books. How dangerous do you think the current state is at the border? And if it continues, if Joe Biden were to cheat and win again, um, how dangerous will it
So,
be?
what's happening at the border, I am very convinced, is not a crisis. It's not a surge. It is a well planned and coordinated invasion.
Hmm.
Um, and for many factors, so we know what happened in the election last year. And I'm at a point where you can't deny it, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or you're just sitting independent. There's no way what happened in this last election actually happened. And they can't do that again. They can't do this again. They can't have dead voters voting again. And I think I had just watched something by it was either Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson, who was stating statistics about migrants, and it was almost like 100% of migrants vote Democrat within their first 4 years, within their first election. And so if you think about it, right, what are the chances that they want these migrant surges to come in, and the additional push for no voter ID so that they can legalize illegals voting, right? And then what happens? They fairly, quotes, fairly take the election because they legalized things that were once illegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that you could call it a conspiracy theory, but it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense.
Well, I just, what I don't understand, again, and other than it being planned and desired by the left, what else would it be? I mean, how hard is it to simply secure the border? Right? I mean, we can, at the drop of a hat, send billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine. Why couldn't we do that with our own borders? Right? Obviously, they can. We don't need any new laws. The laws exist. I believe ultimately that if Trump gets elected, we need to close the border for a period of time until we get things straightened out, the wall built, and the like, and get people out who shouldn't be here. But it is a horrible, horrible thing that's going on. If you're a leftist, you want this to continue. So I mean, think about it. You're right. If Texas were to become so full of illegals and then ultimately Democrats, and Texas becomes a Democrat winning state, the future elections are over, right? I mean, it's basically done.
It's not even really about Texas becoming a Democrat state, because all of those illegals are being shipped to Democrat
Everywhere.
states or beyond, right? I'm in Vermont, and we are a Republican state, but our governor is a through and through rhino. He doesn't vote Republican on any policy. He's actually also going after 2A rights right now as well. And I don't know. I wish I knew the plan and how this was going to be executed. But I don't. And it's so very confusing because there's two sides of this. As an American citizen, I want to believe that our government actually cares about us, but we've gone so far past the goalpost, right? With limited government, what happened when people didn't get paid to sit in a room and vote against each other? Like, these people have turned it into a career of nonsense. No, none of them, and I'm attacking both sides with this accusation. Almost none of them care about the American people. It is just who's more popular and who can debate more, and it's it's fueling this. There's a theory out there, right? If we break out into a civil war, there will be no election. So are we preparing for that? Right? Are we preparing to, if Donald Trump is set to win, if he is predicted to win, that all of a sudden some sort of civil war breaks out between states, between illegals and Americans, whatever it may be, and it just stops the election flat? There is something coming, because as the economy has gone over the last 3 years, right? I can't see a lot of Biden voters continuing to go back and vote for Biden. So something big has to happen for him to resurrect the love his party once had for him.
Yeah. I think there's huge concern. I mean, we know those that have paid attention, right? If you're a leftist and you happen to be listening, which I doubt, but hopefully you are, you don't know any of this stuff, right? But if for those of us that know, we know that the left spied on Trump's campaign and his transition. We know they falsely accused him of colluding with Russia. We know they falsely accused him of, quid pro quo with that Ukraine call, which he was impeached for. We know they falsified and covered up all sorts of things regarding January 6th and impeached him for that, for just giving a speech. This is what we know now, that they've indicted him 4 times and are suing him over the dumbest, inconsequential things. The FBI came to his home in Mar-a-Lago with guns drawn for classified documents that are secured completely in his home and that he's allowed to have. Joe Biden has classified documents from 8 years ago in the trunk of his car, and nothing's done. There's no end to what they're willing to do to stop him, and it's really that they're trying to stop what he wants to do, which is give back freedom and liberty and power to us, versus, as you said, I don't care, Democrats or Republicans, most of them are bad and they're not any good for us. A question I have, it's more of a
Yeah.
philosophical question, is something I talk about a lot and I believe, and that is the question of, is the left evil? Some people have said, "Oh, you can't go that far." I know people who are leftists, and they're really nice people, and I do too. I know people who are leftists,
Yeah.
and they're very nice. They're kind. They seem to be caring and
Yeah.
compassionate. At the end of the day, you can't be for baby murder and be called kind or good. I hate to say that. You might be a nice person to have a conversation with and whatnot, or be help your neighbor, and that may be wonderful. But if you're for baby killing and castrating children, but in and of itself, how would you respond to that statement? Is the left evil?
So I don't think the left as a whole is evil. I do think there's very evil ideologies within it, within the belief system and what they back. Now, do I believe Democrat leaders are evil? 100%. 100%. But I will take that a step further and say just what I touched on the beginning, which was we are literally indoctrinated to just follow orders.
Hmm.
I think a mass part of the Democratic demographic is just the I listened to shut up and be quiet so much, I'm just going to continue to do it.
Yeah.
And is that inherently evil? Yes, because they're remaining silent and just in going with the flow of the evil that's being pushed instead of speaking up. And I mean, you don't have to be Christian. You don't have to be religious in any way to know within your body that killing a human being that doesn't have the ability to say no is evil. Now, I am pro-life. I don't believe in abortions. I have a story. If we have time, I can tell you that. But I will also preface that with I am pro-innocent life. I do believe in the death penalty for certain crimes, and I totally back that. Like the crime of treason, for example, what is happening right now at our border. I do fully back that, and but I don't back the ability to end a life. No matter what the circumstance behind it. Okay.
Hmm.
Two wrongs don't make a right. They don't. And I also believe on the flip side that people that are pro-life need to do more. We have to do
Hmm.
more. Just
Yep.
saying you're pro-life isn't enough. We have to donate. And that's not to say you have to go out and adopt and be a foster parent and all of those types of things. But join a pro-life organization. Go talk to some people going in to get an abortion, right? Go donate. Maybe it's just $1 a week. What if 10,000 people donated $1 a week to a local pro-life organization? What happens? A lot happens, right? It's we have to. We're in this cycle, and that's thanks to COVID of just talking.
Hmm.
Let's just talk it out, right? No, let's do something. We have to do something about it.
Yeah. 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 Good points. Really good points. I like what you said about the left being evil. I agree. I think especially our college students are, they are indoctrinated, and they just kind of go along and do and say, well, the government said to wear a mask, so I will. Oh, the sign going into that store says you must wear a mask, so I will. And too many people are like that with too many things, and ultimately that can lead to really evil things. So we have about 5 minutes or so left, and you did say you have a story, and if you're open and willing to tell the story,
Yeah,
I'd love to hear it.
I will go through it as quick as I can. So I have 4 children. One of them is my bonus son. He is 17. My other 3 were not planned. None of them were planned. I had them all within 3.5 years, so very close, very overwhelming, right? When I got pregnant with my third, I denied it. I was like, we can't do this, right? We were financially struggling. Life was really hard to get by. And so we had talked about going to Planned Parenthood for obvious reasons. And I was about 14 weeks. I literally denied being pregnant. I was like, I'm not even going to deal with this. And so I never went to a doctor appointment before that. I went into Planned Parenthood. They wouldn't allow my spouse in the room. They said, we're going to talk to you. They talked to me. They made me sign some papers. And they were like, do you want to do it now? And I was like, no, I'm not. No. But they needed to see how far along that I was. So they took me in the exam room and they gave me an ultrasound. And she did what she could not to allow me to see the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there. And this is really, so I also have a journey with God. Maybe we can talk about another time, but I parted ways with God for a very long time. And at this time, I did not believe in God. I had done everything to deny his existence. And I just felt this pull on me that was like, Megan, look at that screen. And so I made her turn the screen towards me. And I saw my baby and I saw a heartbeat and I said, okay, I'm done. And she was like, well, that's not really how it works. And I was like, no, that's how it works. I'm done. Thanks. And we walked out and we left. And I never went back, right? I have a healthy and thriving 5.5-year-old now, and I'm very thankful. She's the light of my life. And it's the abortion topic is pure evil. Mm-hmm. It is pure evil to make anybody think that it is a way out. It is healthier. I just got teary-eyed talking about it. Okay, I was talking about maybe thinking about it, right? Mm-hmm. What would have happened if I actually did it? Yeah. How would I feel after? And so many women want to ignore so much of their trauma comes from that. And they say, well, I was able to get a job and do X, Y, and Z after you. Sis, you could have done the same thing with a baby. I promise you.
Right.
I promise you. And for some of us, kids are exactly what we needed to change our lives. Something I didn't really talk about here, and I'll go really quick again, is I was a drug addict for a very long time. I've been in recovery for over 10 years now. And my kids are a big reason for that. They're a big reason I decided to change my life. I was sober for about 6 months when I got pregnant for my first. Was it a surprise? Was it overwhelming? Absolutely. But seeing her face is the reason I decided to never go back. Kids are such a blessing, and it is evil to rip that away from people. Because for some people, no matter how much they're struggling, that is the gift that God is giving them to change everything. Everything. And the left and evil are doing nothing but convincing people it's just a clump of cells. It doesn't matter. It does matter. And that's why they're going after it. I live in a state where they legalized abortion up to 40 weeks, and I'm disgusted.
Yeah. Well, a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad we were able to get that in. Really, really amazing. And that's a hard thing for you to do, to stand up. And it does show you also, for those listening, that, Planned Parenthood does do that. Why wouldn't they let your husband in? I'm allowed to go into any visits that my wife has and vice versa. And the like, they do that on purpose. And they don't want to. I've had plenty of people on my show who worked for Planned Parenthood who said that is their policy. They don't let you see the ultrasound. They actually take, rip pictures out of magazines in their lobby of families because they don't want women and men to see their cute pictures of families. That's what they do. They're lying and manipulating. But great story. Thank you for sharing that. That was really great. And I know it was hard for you. But thank you for sharing, because that'll mean a lot to people.
That's okay. It needs to be said more. And I will admit it's something that I don't talk about. And maybe I should, because I know there's people out there that just need to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. They just need to hear it. There is another option.
Yep, absolutely. And it goes with the theme of this show, knowledge, faith, and truth. And you got all three with our conversation with Megan. And if you want to follow her on social media, it is at freedom_chronicles. And just go to various social media and you will find her, and you'll enjoy all her posts, as I did. So Meg, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was amazing.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of Fide's Podcast. Please check out all my podcasts on all the different podcast apps, on YouTube, on Rumble on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Right America Media and on WHK Radio /podcasts as well. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.